Hello guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of Thomas and Friends Character Showcase. This is a new series I'm working on where I essentially do an unscripted video explaining how I would handle a certain Thomas and Friends character. Whether that be a beloved character, an underutilized character, a bad character. Well, rather, I don't think there's such thing as a bad character. Only badly written characters. That's the point this series is trying to make. So, to start this off, I'm taking two of the newly loathed Thomas characters. Now, I think they're loathed not because they're bad per se, but because they're associated with the reboot. But, with some good writing, I think we could do something with them. So, the characters we'll be looking at are Sandy, the motor car, and the reinterpretation of Carly the crane, where she's now a crane engine. Because reasons. So, I think we should start with Sandy. She's the newcomer to the series. She's based on a motor car, which those kind of rail vehicles were used mostly for maintenance, so I think that's a good place to start. In the bits of the show that I have seen, yes, I've actually watched a bit of All Engines Go, she comes across as a very hyper but crafty little engine. She uses a lot of gadgets, which I don't think that'll fly here. I mean, we're already pushing it with Diesel 10 having a big claw, but in the reboot, Sandy has like a Dr. Octopus style arm. That isn't gonna fly here. But having her being a clever little maintenance do motor cars work on diesel? A motor vehicle. Yeah, a motor vehicle. I think that could actually be a good basis. So she's crafty, a bit childish, but kind, and she's very much involved in maintenance, which I think, considering how hyperactive she comes across in the series, I don't think she'd be satisfied with that kind of work at all. Like she would take part in it, but like the moment that she sees an opportunity, I'd imagine she would sneak off to try and pull a train to no prevail, because like motor cars don't have couplings, which I know the art I'm showing here does, but I'll get into that. So I think something that would be kind of interesting is if she ended up working at the cement works, which is the place where Fergus worked in season 7. I think that'd be kind of neat, partially because we don't get to see that much of the cement works, so it's really untapped territory for the most part. And also, I think her personality, like her very much not by the books, just gut feeling actions, I think that would clash beautifully with the very by the books, do it right nature of Fergus. Like, imagine when she first arrives, it would be like how he interacted with Bill and Ben, but dialed up to a 10. But like, unlike Bill and Ben, where they would be legitimately annoyed by Fergus, I think Sandy would just kind of make fun of him, and like in a not hostile way, but just like in a childish manner. Like, I could totally see a situation where he arrives and sees Sandy, like she's just been bought because, I should actually probably go into why she was bought. Well, as we saw in Fergus Breaks the Rules, the cement works clearly needs more engines. Like, Fergus is the only permanent one there. Like, they had to rent Diesel out. So I think they could use another engine, but perhaps they just need someone to transport the workers and the equipment from place to place. So they just got a little motor car where they could easily put their shovels, pickaxes, whatever into her cab. Someone could drive her, or she could drive herself, depending on how you feel about that. And, simply put, she would just be there for transport and maintenance. Now, I don't, like I said, I don't think she would be satisfied with that work at all. Like, I could totally see the moment they get out, she sees like a line of trucks that need to be shunted. And instead of just letting Fergus take care of it, she just decides to try ramming the trucks at full speed to try and get them to move. But when she hits them, she just really messes up her running board. Like, the buffers on the trucks just completely dented in her frame. Now, Sandy wouldn't really be hurt as much as just thinking, that happened. Which I'd imagine the workmen would be very much like, oh, damn it! Okay, someone go fix her. And I'd imagine like they'd have to call the manager and he'd be really ticked off at Sandy. But like Sandy, I think she'd like feel really bad for upsetting him and would say that she would behave in the future. But I think like every chance she gets, she would try shunting trucks and try and get them to move, but would just end up damaging herself in the process. So I think that's where the buffers come in. Eventually the workmen just realize, okay, we're not going to be able to get her to behave, so let's at least give her some buffers so she can try not to damage herself. So they just take a pair of spare diesel buffers, kind of like what Gordon had in Bust My Buffers, and just bolts it onto the front of her, and I think she would love that, honestly. Like, in her childish nature, she'd be like, oh, these are buffers, and they have a little coupling, I can now pull trains, oh, and they're all stripy. But, like, it's also very accurate to give her hazard stripes, because, like, she's a very rough and tumble engine, I'd imagine. And this would go on for some time where, like, she's the polar opposite of Fergus. Like, Fergus would very much scold her every night about how very, let's say, unusual she is when it comes to safety. Like, she's very much like, as long as no one's hurt and we get the job done, it's okay. But Fergus is like the other extreme where if you go even the slightest bit out of line, he's like, do it right. So I think they'd have a great dynamic. And let's say maybe she's around during Bill, Ben, and Fergus, or was it... Sorry, this is all unscripted. So let's say she's present for that. I'd imagine she would be fully on board with Bill and Ben's mentality that Fergus is being too uptight about everything, but she would be a lot less aggressive about it. She would more just tease Fergus about the whole thing. But when the avalanche happens and she finally sees what can happen when you're not following the rules, I'd imagine that would kind of be her wake-up call. Maybe in this theoretical thing, maybe it was even her idea, like, not directly, but maybe she was talking with Bill and Ben. They're like, oh, that Fergus, he's always telling us what to do. Right, Bill, we should get him back. Well, and like Sandy's kind of in a shy but wanting to be involved kind of voice, she's like, well, why don't we just do it wrong? That's not half bad. Yeah. Next time he tells us to do it right, we'll do it wrong. You know, like that. So I think seeing Fergus buried in stones would kind of be her wake-up call to start following the rules, which I don't think this would be an overnight thing, and I don't think she would ever be like a goody two-shoes, but I think that would be when she learns that you have to be at least sensible. I don't think she'd ever be a rule follower, but she would keep in mind the consequences of her actions. Like, I'd imagine her rule breaking would be less speeding across the tracks trying to just biff the trucks as hard as possible, or just trying to, I don't know, race from side to side of the yard trying to get a best time or something. I think her rule breaking would be more like things that they'd be a lot smaller rule breaking. Like, say, for example, Fergus is meant to shunt some trucks, and she'd be like, oh, I can do it. And, like, with her buffer, she tries to, like, shunt 4 trucks at once, and because, like, she's a small little motor car, she's not meant for that kind of work. The moment she tries pushing 4 trucks, like, they'd hardly move an inch, but she's, like, giving it her all. Maybe she'd even, like, blow a gasket trying to do that. Wait, do motor cars have gaskets? And if anyone knows that, feel free to comment. But, I'd imagine this would kind of be like in King of the Railway, where Steven tries pulling 4 big wagons, and it doesn't work, and they keep on removing wagon by wagon until he's only barely able to pull 1 troublesome truck. It would be like that. Like, Sandy she can only just manage to pull or push 1 fully loaded truck at a time. But, like, to her, that would be a huge accomplishment, because, like, I'd imagine she wasn't designed with that at all, so the fact that she could even manage 1 truck, that would be a huge step up for her. And honestly, I think over time, kind of like how she learned from Fergus's experience that you do have to be sensible, maybe she would start to teach Fergus that there should be some leeway when it comes to rules. Not that much, but every now and again, it's okay to bend the rules slightly. Not too much, but just a little. Or at the very least, he should, like, change his approach about it. Instead of immediately scolding whoever bends the rules slightly, it should be more, like, let's say a scenario, like, Sandy's trying to move a train instead of doing her work. Fergus's immediate response would be, do it right, Sandy! When, in actuality, his response would be, Sandy, you should be doing your work. I mean, like, that would honestly be their dynamic, I think. They would have very much a role model role where they would both learn something from one another. And I think even this very basic premise I've shown, I think that gives off a lot of potential for how Sandy could be handled. I just thought about this. Little motor cars like her, they're very boxy and small. Like, obviously they're bigger than narrow gauge engines, I believe, but not by that much. It's really just their gauge that's the difference. So, I kind of like to think that whenever if she really ticked off Fergus one day, she would just hide behind a bunch of trucks, or rather she would try to, but she can, like, barely manage to move them. So, like, all the workmen, they just hear, like, a bunch of grunting in the corner. Like, she's making, like, a bunch of pathetic sounds trying to move the truck so that she can hide. Like, from across the yard, the workmen just do you hear something? Come on. There, I lined up all the trucks. Now he'll never find me. And Fergus, he's already spotted her for, 5 minutes, but he's just like, ugh, God, this is pathetic. Okay, I can't even scold her at this point. I think she's punished herself enough. And then she realizes, wait, how am I gonna get out of here? Because, it's like she's used up all of her energy trying to move the truck in front of her, and now she can't get out. I think there's a lot of comedic material that you can come up with her, honestly. So I really hope this has inspired some people to give the character a chance. And I just want to say, all the stuff I mentioned here, it's free to use. Anyone can use these concepts. So, yeah, go at it. Give Sandy a chance.